So the first thing I do in the morning is I kind of lay in bed for a little while as I'm waking up, and I grab my phone and I start looking at Twitter just to kind of ascertain what's in the news, what's happening today. And today, the very first thing I saw is Nancy Pelosi is calling Trump morbidly obese and giving medical advice that she frankly has no business giving because she is not a doctor, saying, "Oh, I just don't think it's a good idea for him to be taking hydroxychloroquine." Well, of course you don't, Nancy. Of course you don't. But we're not going to talk about the taking of the hydroxychloroquine. I want to talk about the fat shaming, because that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi did here. And what I want to do is talk about how crazy the SJW left gets when they think someone has been fat shaming. Oh my God, we have to mob them and bully them and shame them into submission and make them bend the knee. And I'm going to tell you a story from the knitting world where this actually happened. Yes, folks, knitting has been taken over by fat phobic, I don't know, probably racist Nazis, whatever, bad people from the right have taken over the knitting world, and there's fat phobia in the knitting world. I'm not making this up. I'm going to lay it all out for you. But what happened today to cause me to tell this story? Because listen, man, this is a story from the knitting wars that's relatively recent. The knitting wars go back over a year. I had this grand plan to do a series of sequential videos. I'm still going to work on it to tell the entire true saga of the knitting wars, but we're going to fast forward to one of the more recent incidents today simply because it's timely with what's going on in the news. So a couple hours after I saw this tweet, look what's trending on Twitter. President Plump hashtag, because the left has no principles and they will use any tactic they can, even if it goes against fat phobia and body shaming and all of these things that they have been screeching about. Another thing that was trending today, I think, was hashtag Trump morbidly obese, because they just can't get enough. Listen, I'm the last person in the world that will shame anyone for their weight. Listen, I could lose weight. I know that. I was losing weight at a clip before all of this, and my gym closed and that's another story for another day. I'm very upset about it. No, this is not an invitation for you guys to send me weight loss advice and tell me to get on the keto diet, which is not going to happen in any stretch of the imagination. But I just say that because I'm the very last person that will say anything about someone's weight. I understand the struggle of losing weight. And it is a struggle, and you know what? No one should be made to feel bad because of what they weigh. But that's not actually what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is knitting and desserts. Because listen, I have this book right here. That's what we're going to talk about. This is a book called Knit and Nibble: Life's Patterns, Recipes, and Games. This is a book about knitting. It is also a book about baking and making delectable little treats. It is a fantastic read. It's a great intro book. If you're a beginning knitter, you're really gonna like the patterns in here because it's like easy stuff. But this is written by this guy, James McIntosh, and his partner, Dr. Thomas. And that's really what it is, guys. It's a book about knitting and baking desserts. And they went on a show called How to Lose Weight Well. Now, this book is not a weight loss book. It is not a weight loss book. I can confirm I have seen the recipes in the book. I have made some of the recipes in the book. It is not a weight loss book by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a show more about being mindful about how you're losing weight, healthy ways to lose weight. And I think that, how they approach it in this book is knitting is a mindfulness activity to get your head in the right place, to de-stress, to do all those things, which will eventually help you lose weight if you are living a more mindful experience. But that is not good enough for the SJWs in the knitting world. And what they did when this post went up, listen, if you look at their Instagram, you're going to see they post all the time. They do like knitting events and talking about different things, and they promote the book, obviously, because that's what you're supposed to do when you have a book. You're supposed to promote it. So you look at their Instagram, you'll see, there's a couple comments on their pictures here and there, but no big deal, right? It's just kind of an average Instagram page. I'll link to this post in the comments or in the description of this video so you can go see for yourself. But we're going to see the dog pile that happened around this post. And then we're going to read this article about it from Carrie Smith. of Unsafe Space fame. Unsafe Space is my favorite YouTube channel, as you guys know. I've talked about it many times. And we're going to hear from Carrie, who's going to deconstruct what happened in this particular knitting, bullying, SJW mobbing incident. And she was a former SJW, man. She was an SJW for 20 years. So she really understands the ins and outs of it. So that's what we're going to do. First, we're going to look at the comments on this Instagram post, and then we're going to go back and read Carrie's article. But before we get into that, listen, folks, if you like my content, if you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, hit the thumbs up, all that good stuff. It's really going to help me grow the channel, and I very much appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at the comments on this really innocuous post that's just about going on a show about weight loss. That's all it is. Promoting a book on a show about weight loss. What the actual fuck? How does this page of ridiculous banter have this many followers? Be ashamed. I think maybe you've missed the point of knitting. And also, what the actual fuck? Why would you bring a harmful pro-diet fuckery into anything with knitting? How will any larger straight size or plus size knitters ever feel comfortable around you again? Because if you write a book about desserts and knitting, apparently you're going to make straight sized or larger plus size women feel uncomfortable. We're going to keep going. There's a lot of these to get through, folks. How about we stop fat shaming and let them have their damn hobbies without the added fat phobia bullshit? This is disgusting. No, just no. I don't want your fat phobic diet culture crap invading my hobbies. This is not a diet book. So what happens with these people is someone spots something that they don't like, and they go off into their little communities and they have a meeting. They don't really know what they're talking about. They don't really investigate what they're talking about, and then they just dog pile on, and this goes on for days and days. Let's keep going. Maybe, I lost my place. There we go. Maybe you should try using your knitting needles like chopstick and eat this fat phobic patriarchal bullshit until you figure out why it's tasteless and, well, shit. Life is not always about losing weight anyways. No, 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 no. I'm just going to remind you again, this is not a diet book. Not. This is so ridiculous and gross. No. Hard no. This is the biggest crock of shit I've ever seen. What the hell? Knitting has nothing to do with losing weight. Throw this whole idea away, please. Thank you. Come on, knitting too. Just leave us in fucking peace. It's meant to be a sanctuary away from this bullshit, except that the sanctuary has been ruined by the crazy SJWs who keep doing shit like this. Because what I really want you to understand is, like, what we're looking at now, this is not an isolated incident. They haven't been doing it as much lately. I think the pandemic has, like, caught them on their heels. They don't really know how to react to it. So the knitting world has actually been kind of quiet lately, or maybe they've gotten the idea that there are now enough of us fighting back and pointing out how crazy this all is that they've just stopped. But what you're seeing here is very, very typical of what's happened in the knitting world for the last year and a half, whatever it is now. Great, another book by thin white men telling women how imperfect they are. This is not a diet book. Tell me what happens if your theory fails and no weight is lost. Do we stop doing something we love so much because it's failed to make us, in your view, perfect? So you can tell these people, like, don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know what the book is about, and they're making these comments. What happens when we feel more left out of what the knitting community is trying so hard to achieve in size inclusivity? How about the ridicule we will go through when the community doesn't support this ridiculous attempt at fat shaming, or when knitting becomes a chore instead of a pleasurable experience? Listen, for a lot of us that were fighting this SJW nonsense for a while, this is not a pleasurable experience. Yeah, it's kind of fun now because there's a lot more of us doing it and we can banter and joke about it, but these people ruined knitting for me for like several months. It was like, it didn't even make me want to knit anymore, and that made me very, very sad until I decided that I wasn't going to let them ruin it for me. Or it becomes another bad reminder of another failed diet. You should have thought about the consequences of writing something so wrong instead of being opportunistic with other people's feelings and views of themselves. Again, this is not a diet book. It's not in any way, shape, or form a diet book. It does not talk about weight loss literally at all. So they're making these comments over something that they haven't even read. Shame on you, Channel 4. The reporter thinking it was newsworthy and giving them free publicity. You should have done your homework and realized what a horrible idea this book is. I'm going to say this too, and I think this actually got deleted in the comments because I couldn't find it. These people actually got the publisher of this book to denounce them. The publisher actually commented on one of their posts saying, we do not support these comments. And then a lot of us pushed back on them and were basically like, you should be ashamed. You published this book. You actually know this is not a weight loss book. Like, why are you denouncing your authors? So I think they deleted it, but the publisher actually did denounce them in the Instagram post at some point. Let's keep going. This is gross. Get out of here with this shit. What the Jesus fucking Christ? White dudes and their hashtags. Fuck fatphobia. Looks like all the other comments have summed it up pretty well. Good job turning creative expression into something gross. Ugh, this is so gross. It's been a while since my eyeballs have cramped so hard from rolling. Just know I supported and attended your talk on mental health, but talk about jumping on the bandwagon. I suggest you research dieting and mental health / eating disorders unfollowing. So this is a good time to point out that James's partner Thomas is actually a doctor in real life. Doctor in real life. But these people don't know that, and they don't know that this isn't a book about weight loss. Gross patriarchal mansplaining. What the fuck is this? This is repulsive. Stopped now. Absolutely ridiculous. You should be ashamed. Unacceptable and harmful. Has no place in the knitting community. Yeah, because that's why we knit. Whoa, this is fucked up. What the actual fuck? There is, and I'm sorry I'm swearing so much, guys, but these are literally the comments. These are the comments. And like, you know, guys know I'm not like, I swear I don't have any problem with it, but I usually don't swear quite this much, but I'm literally reading the comments that were left for these guys for committing the crime of going on a TV show to promote a book that is not about weight loss. The book's not about weight loss. I don't know how many times I have to say that. What the actual fuck? This is wrong on so many levels. Is this a joke? We already did the knitting and ice cream thing in 2019. Do we really have to go over this again? Fat-phobic diet culture is harmful. I don't know what that says. Disgraceful bloody patriarchy putting people down. Ugh, knit nibble. This is gross. This is ridiculous. Want to point out the benefits of knitting? How about the meditative aspects, the feeling of accomplishment, a sense of community? It's actually what they do write about in the book, by the way. But these people don't know it because they won't read the book. They won't even look at what they're talking about. They just dogpile on because they're addicted to this outrage. I want to know what made you think in this day and age doctors can peddle this quackery. Rolling of eyes. Snake oil salesman, this BS has no place in the crafting world. What the actual fuck? No, just no. This is disgusting. People who suffer from compulsive eating disorder may need the help of a trained psychotherapist. They definitely do not need white men with bogus claims mansplaining them into buying a book as a way to cope with self-loathing. Shame on you. Signed, someone who has knit for hours a day for 15 years and has not lost an ounce of weight in doing so. So when they actually went on the show, they actually said knitting is not a weight loss activity. That's actually what they said in real life. They said this is not going to lead to weight loss because it's not a weight loss book. Not. In the name of white gay knitters, can you fucking not? We are the most privileged people in the community. You have absolutely nothing to explain to everyone. I really hope you will acknowledge the comments here and make a proper statement about your mistake. So this is where, and this actually showed up not on this post necessarily, but on other posts on their page. They got posts saying, why haven't you made a statement yet about these comments? Why aren't you acknowledging these comments? Because the goal is to get them to bend the knee. Never apologize. Never. Let's keep going because there's more. Such harmful and irresponsible behavior. Really disappointed in this whole thread. I think the whole thing should be retracted. And if you know nothing about a subject, you should shut the hell up. This is fat-phobic, patriarchal BS. Why people, specifically YT, I don't know what that means, YT men, have the need to tell others how to look, Knitting, crochet, other yarny hobbies should be something to feel good about just for the craft itself. Actually, all hobbies should be for enjoyment. Can hand knitting get you to a place where you don't want to give a fuck about your own or other people's weight? That would be worth a TV show. Yeah, that sounds like an awesome concept. Pick a marginalized group, slap them right across the face to make yourself feel better, and sell tons of books to equally thick-headed customers. Just a heads up, you can't hide behind knitting needles patriarchy. This is just awful. Stop it now. This type of content is so harmful, especially at this time of year. New year, new me. Please reflect on your content, on how your content is fueling diet culture and fat phobia, and commit to doing better in the future. Knitting can be incredibly helpful in healing, but not in this way. I feel like you should too apologize. I feel like you too should apologize to whomever raised you. Surely they did not intend for you to be this myopically hateful. Knitting is a wonderful medium and has helped so many people with so many problems. Weight loss should not be included in that. I think the other comments say that very loudly, that this is not welcome. Fuck fat phobia. Hashtag you're causing a lot of harm, and even worse, monetizing people's insecurity. Please stop. What the absolute hell is this nonsense? What damaging rubbish? A few years ago, a person very, very near to me was admitted to a specialized psychiatric unit for eating disorders. Over the weeks when visiting, I observed many girls just sitting in their chairs, endlessly rocking. Later on, these very same girls started knitting vigorously, often standing up, making little movements. At first I was thrilled and wanted to help these new knitters. Then I learned that many of these girls were on restricted movement, as they would walk endlessly and move in hopes of losing the calories from the regular eating schedule they had to follow. As they were no longer allowed to do that, someone told them that knitting was movement too. Hence, they started knitting, which the medical staff couldn't really put a stop to because knitting is also therapeutic, right? So, Knit Nibble, do you think associating knitting with weight loss is a good idea? Does anybody think that this non-stop weight loss promotion is anything of everything isn't toxic? The answer to your question is no. With that sorted, can we talk about the harm that this sort of nonsense is doing? It portrays weight loss as the goal for all, and don't talk about health. It is ableist and usually wrong. You are sullying craft, which has many benefits, none of which are related to weight, by turning it into a pathetic attempt to earn money based on the insecurities that society encourages. I look forward to seeing this book fail to sell in the bargain bin of discount booksellers. It was a waste of the Earth's resources to produce it. I'm going to say this book is actually fabulous. And again, it's available on their website. If you're a beginning knitter, there's lots of very easy patterns that you can do. It's going to teach you all about it. Also, really, really delicious desserts. Why are there delicious desserts? Because this is not a weight loss book. Not a book about weight loss. So many wonderful people have been working hard to tackle fat phobia and diet culture, and you decide to undermine that. You have made a harmful decision. And like this really, guys, does it feel like I'm reading a lot of comments here? Because I feel like I'm reading a lot of comments. We're just going to keep going because this is what it is. This is what mobbing fucking looks like in the knitting world, and I'm sure in many other communities where this shit happens, where it's just endless. It's endless. It never stops. Can you just not keep your fat phobia out of our craft? You want to knit? Great, knit. I'm glad it's helped your mental health. It's helped a lot of ours too, including eating disorders. Just enjoy knitting. Don't use it to sell skinny. We don't want it. Is anything sacred anymore? Laughing my ass off, honestly, does everything women do have to involve weight loss? Even innocent pleasure activities. I mean, if every second of your day isn't dedicated to weight loss, then you're not doing it right. Am I right, ladies? Please, white men, instruct me on how to use a craft I love dearly to hate my body, because women aren't constantly reminded of how we need to look a certain way. Shove it into crafts too. Ah, well, looks like the patriarchy is alive and well. This time with a dose of fat phobia. Great. Diet culture does not belong in the crafting world. You are a crappy excuse for human beings for promoting this. And for every company that supports this, I will boycott you. Please delete your account. This just makes me want to grab a giant piece of chocolate cake while knitting. Well, good, because they've got recipes in their book for you to do that. What in the world? This is ridiculously terrible. The likes to comments ratio here is heavenly. What the fuck? This is fucking nonsense. I feel like y'all just missed the whole inclusivity movement in our community. This is tone deaf and ableist and fat shaming, waiting for a response from Knit Nibble team on all the comments in this section. Diet culture, toxic diet culture, has no place in the crafting world. The premise of your book is fatphobic and ableist, and I'm glad to see knitters reject this BS. It should be noted, I'm showing you all of the negative comments on this post, but a lot of us fought back against this, and there are actually a lot more comments on this post that are positive, that are fighting back. It would just take like hours and hours and hours to read through all of them, but you can go read through them if you want. And a lot of us actually did buy this book in support of them to show them that we don't buy into this bullshit nonsense. Appalling! I'm so sick of seeing this notion that everyone needs to lose weight. That is not the case. Keep triggers for eating disorders out of knitting and let us remember our sisters and brothers that died from anorexia. This is abhorrently fatphobic, especially when the same knitting community you were trying to market to is working on eliminating fat phobia from its pattern sizing. So what they're talking about there is there was actually a movement to basically guilt designers into designing for the broadest possible range of sizes, and that's legit, man. I totally get it. If you're going to design something, like, you know, I think it just makes good business sense, frankly, to design it for a broad range of sizes. But what they were doing is if you didn't have the range that they wanted, they would go after you just like this, and then you have to issue a dramatic public apology saying, I'm sorry, I didn't design for size 36, blah, 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 blah. Like, I get it, man, but like, again, like, I'm a bigger girl. I like to have inclusive sizes too, but designers should do their own thing. It just makes, do it from a business angle. If you design for more sizes, you're going to sell more patterns. It's just the way it works. It's like it's totally capitalistic, or it should be. All right, where am I? Check your dang privilege and realize that some people have medical problems, making it excessively difficult, if not impossible, to lose weight. Healthy is relative. I know people at 250 pounds that can run marathons. No, she doesn't. And I know, because I ran my last marathon at, I want to say I was heavier. I was like 175 pounds, I think, in my last marathon. Dude, that marathon was hard, man. I'll tell you what. So no, you don't know people at 250 pounds that can run marathons. They can finish marathons. I finished the marathon when I was heavier. I get it. But no, they're not running the whole way, please. And people at 120 that can barely walk upstairs. Both are the same age generation. And also, maybe you should have someone proofread your captions to your posts, because we're calling out typos too. So 2 men want to instruct me on how to lose weight by doing something I already do. Doesn't seem to be working, you fat-phobic mansplainers. Since I already knit, guess what? We are all beautiful people, no matter what our weight, yet y'all can take your misogynistic, fatphobic book to bed with you, because I hope the romantic interests in your life open their eyes and realize you are doing more harm than good with this hate disguised as self-help. It just keeps going. This is good. Like, I'll do this all day, people. I'm just scrolling down comments on one post. This is not needed, fatphobic, and just plain gross. Maybe spend some time considering the fact that you can't seem to imagine people engaging in a hobby without the promise of weight loss. What does this say about you, your expectations, your views of other bodies, and of our society? What does that say about your understanding of hobbies and our social need to be doing something productive at all times? Everything we do doesn't have to be in service of losing weight or any other capitalist notion of productivity. The fact that you would ask the question posed in this post is the first place in the problem. Imagine a world where it didn't even occur to you to send the message that knitting is only valuable if it serves a purpose deemed worthy by our broken economy. Also, do a Google on fatphobia. Thanks. Oh dear, seriously? When the knitting crochet community is actually starting to talk about fatphobia and size inclusivity, you think this is appropriate? I'll go with a big no thank you for mixing fatphobia with knitting, yarning, crochet, well, really just anything. Just no. I love how your first instinct upon becoming a mindful knitter was to repackage the experience and sell it for profit, using it as a catalyst for spreading misinformation, create body shame in an area where it is most certainly unneeded, and self-aggrandize for doing this. Who asked for any of this from you? You should be ashamed of yourself, as so many of us are already ashamed of you. Yikes. Maybe when pushing your mindfulness book, you should consider not promoting a fatphobic narrative that this is only going to increase people feeling uncomfortable in their own skin. You just can't get enough of that BS in major media. This is nonsense, is actively working to undermine the work people are doing to make knitting more accessible. And listen, man, I could go on and on. Listen, I'm not going to read the rest of these. Look at this, though. Look at this. Keeps going. I could keep going for an hour. I'm actually losing my voice, though. It just keeps going. Just keeps going. But I want to turn to the amazing, the accomplished, the woman I will have on this channel for a live chat at some point when we can get our shit together and coordinate it. I want to turn to Carrie Smith, who wrote this article as this was literally going on. And this was kind of an explanation to James and Thomas about what to expect in this. Because again, this was a newer incident in the knitting wars. We had been through many of these at this point. It follows the same pattern every single time. Carrie's going to break it down for us. An explanation of the SJW knitting mobbing you're about to experience. You're probably wondering how you ended up here. There's a mob of puritanical, authoritarian bullies in the online knitting world who viciously attempt to spread their ideology via pylons of impotent rage at anyone who achieves any level of success without bowing and genuflecting to their cult. Congratulations, you've drawn their ire and resentment because of your success, because you don't hate yourself enough to their liking, and because they don't control you yet. Here's what you can expect. This has happened many times now with other successful knitters, yarn makers, pattern makers, yarn shops, and authors. So we have a blueprint. So Unsafe Space is actually covered in the Knitting Wars. This is one of the shows they did called the SJW Knitting Circle of Hell, in which they talked about the Knitting Wars. And there's other videos in this too, and I'll explain what each of them is as we get to it. First, they'll share your profile and this photo around the internet and call on all members of the cult to let you know what a pile of garbage you are for going on a silly TV show to promote your book about eating cake and getting over depression and encouraging other good habits through knitting. The tactic they'll use for you specifically will be fat shaming. It could be any tactic really, but because you went on a program specifically about weight loss and answered a question about weight loss, then this is an easy one for them. They'll accuse you of the sin of fat shaming, and they'll eventually also bring your sex and race into it. You'll be shamed for being male, white, cis, thin, able-bodied, etc. And you'll even be accused of racism and sexism by the people making this about your race and sex. And we saw that in the comments, didn't we? We saw their race mentioned constantly. We saw their gender mentioned constantly. Of course that's what happened. I know, it's projection and hypocrisy, but it works pretty often, which is why they do it. They depend on your not being racist and sexist and on your fear of being thought of as such in order to get you to bow and scrape and subject yourself to their control. You'll be asked, no, commanded to apologize for your sins, which again, you've not committed, but it doesn't matter. We saw that too. When are you going to speak to these comments? When are you going to make a statement? So we saw that in the comments on the Instagram post. And here's why you should never, ever, ever apologize. Here we have two options. If you apologize, you lose your self-respect and you will always be owned by them, part of their cult, and expected to genuflect and apologize and modify your language and behavior and business and personal decisions according to their edicts forever. Your coerced apology won't be enough. It will only be the beginning, because this is not about a real apology or a real conversation or a real interaction. It's not even about real sins. This is about control and power. They want power over you because they resent you. They resent your success. They resent that you don't already modify your speech to reflect their ideology. And they resent that that they don't control you yet. If you don't apologize, the mobbing will continue for a while. They're going to try to harm you financially and emotionally. They'll contact everyone you've ever worked with and tell them you're fatphobic, harmful, a racist, a sexist, a transphobe, a bully, and problematic. They'll write blog posts about you, attempting to lend legitimacy to this smear because of your name, and they'll self-reference those blog posts in their emails to your business acquaintances, friends, family, and media outlets. They'll call you harmful while trying to harm you. They'll inundate you with abusive messages and try to convince you that the only way for you to put an end to all this is to bend the knee, kiss their ring, offer their demanded apology, and submit to being educated. As if that's what they're doing, educating. If you end up emotionally and financially devastated, if you end up on suicide watch in a hospital, they will gloat. They will call you a liar. They will show up at some of your public book signings and harass you, scream at you, cause a scene, and then try to have you removed. And at this point, she's got a video in here. So one of the people that was the recipients of one of the worst mobbings in the bullying community was Sockmatician Nathan Taylor, and it was really bad. And I'm not going to tell his story for him. I've talked about it in some of the interviews I've done, but he has a video on his channel called The Truth, This Is My Side of the Story, where he lays it all out from his perspective. It's a long video, but if you want a really in-depth perspective on what happened, that's your video to watch. They'll justify this attempt to censor, damage, vilify, libel, slander, harass, intimidate, hurt, and bully you by gleefully proclaiming there's no freedom from consequences. Some of them will know in their dark little hearts that they are truly the bad guys in this story, and they won't care because they enjoy hurting others and stewing in resentment. Others will only be convinced themselves that they are the good guys in this story, for that is the only way they can justify this behavior to themselves and engage in the cognitive dissonance required to act with such hypocrisy. I understand why some capitulate and fold and bend over and make the apology and then pick up the pitchfork and join the mob that was attacking them. I do. But here's hoping you'll be one of the courageous ones, Knit and Nibble. Follow your heart. You know who you are. You're going through a small fire now to make you stronger and sharper, to help you grow into yourself. These are paper tigers. They will blow away once they realize their magic words won't work on you. Courage. And then she's got another episode of Unsafe Space, which is with Maria Tuskin, who is the next video I really should be doing in the Knitting Wars series, because she was one of the people that got it was really bad for her as well. So, and she went on Unsafe Space to talk about it, so I highly recommend you go watch that video. It's not meant to be replaced by whatever I'm going to do. It's actually much better because it's an interview with her about her experience. So, that is an example of another mobbing in the knitting community. And again, like the comments you saw on that post, I'll tell you folks, like, listen, this is not even all the comments, because what these people do is a lot of them end up blocking people like me who fight back. So I actually can't even see the full extent to the comments there. I don't know. I mean, there's probably a lot more, but you saw how long I spent almost half an hour reading through these comments. This is what it's like. And some of you might say, like, oh, it's just comments on the internet, it can't hurt you. Well, they were going after his publisher, man. Like, his publisher literally denounced him in the course of all this. Like, this is not just comments on the internet. This is very damaging to people's lives. And so when I see nonsense like this of Nancy Pelosi blatantly fat shaming, and no one on the left is going to say anything, listen, I don't actually have a problem with people talking. Like, I would never talk about someone's weight, but my big issue here is the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy of the left that sees this and thinks, oh, this is okay because it's about someone I don't like. But they see something like this and they don't do anything about it, and they don't denounce it at all. If you're on the left, and I don't think you've probably made it this far in the video if you are, but denounce this bullshit, man. This is your team. This is what they're doing. They're going after people's jobs and livelihoods over something that they don't even understand.